In this lesson, we are going to learn how to multiply fractions. It's going to be a 3-part video series where you will just continue the notes with each video. So let's say we are multiplying something like 4/5 times 1/3. What we need to remember is that when you're multiplying fractions, or multiplying anything, you can replace the multiplication symbol with the word of, and it makes fractions a little bit more understandable. So what we're really doing is finding 4/5 of 1/3. Using that wording should help us understand why our answer has to be smaller than the 1/3, because we're trying to just find 4/5 of that number. And 4/5 is less than 1, so it's going to be less than the whole of 1/3. So we can show this with a diagram. Let's say I have this shape, okay? I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to break it into 1/3 because I'm trying to find 4/5 of 1/3 of a whole. So here's the whole, and I'm going to break it into thirds, okay? So you know that 1/3 of that whole is this whole piece right here, right? Now what I need to do is find 4/5 of that. So what I'm going to do is take that one whole and I'm going to break that into fifths. But I'm going to, that 1/3, I'm sorry, and break it into fifths. But I'm going to break the whole piece of it, the whole into fifths, just to help us with our answer later. Okay, so I'm looking at this 1/3 part right here, and I need 4/5 of that. Well, I have 1/5 pieces, and I need 4/5 of them, so that means I need this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece. That is 4 1/5 pieces. Now, if I'm looking for the whole answer, I have to count those 4 pieces according to the entire shape. So if I'm looking at it, I have 4 x's out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 entire pieces. So the answer of 4/5 times 1/3 is 4 1/15 pieces. So it equals 4 15ths. So if we look at the relationship between the actual fractions and the answer, you notice that 4 times 1 is 4, and 5 times 3 is 15. So what you can actually do when you multiply fractions is just multiply straight across. It doesn't help, though, when we have numbers that you can simplify. So we want to kind of go through the steps that you're going to do this, and then we'll do a couple examples. So let's write down the steps for multiplying fractions. The first step is to write each fraction in A over B form. Now, the first types of problems we're going to do aren't going to require this, but this means, for example, if you have a mixed number, the mixed number needs to be changed to an improper fraction. If you have a whole number, you're going to want to change the whole number to something over 1. The second step is to simplify your fractions both vertically and diagonally. So what you're going to do is take out common factors to make the problem easier to multiply. Once you have done, or once you are done simplifying, that's when you can actually multiply. You're going to multiply the numbers across, just like we did in the first example. Since you did all of that simplifying, both vertically and diagonally, very seldom will you have to do any simplifying at the end of the problem. That is, though, what you're going to want to look for last. You want to make sure your answer is in simplest form. You may have missed some simplifying in step 2, or you may have an improper fraction that needs to be changed to a mixed number. So let's do an example. So let's look at 12 20ths times 4 18ths. First of all, both of these fractions are in A over B form. There's no whole numbers in front of them, and we're good to go. You could do what we did in the very first example, and you could just multiply these fractions across. You could say 12 times 4 is 48, and you could say 20 times 18 is 390, and then what you have is 48 390ths, and you definitely have a fraction that's going to need to be reduced. If you do the simplifying, so we take 12 20ths times 4 18ths, and we check what we can simplify within our fractions. Now remember, you can simplify both vertically and diagonally. So we're going to look at all of those directions. I always look at diagonally first. I do not know why. You could look either way, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to start with simplifying the 4 and the 20. So I'm looking at this diagonal right here. And I ask myself, is there anything that goes into both 4 and 20? And I know that 4 goes into both of those numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify by 4. I'm going to say 4 goes into 4 one time, and 4 goes into 20 5 times. Let's say, for example, you didn't notice that 4 went into both of them and you thought it was 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times, and 2 goes into 20 10 times. At this point, you should have noticed that 2 and 10 can still be simplified again. Okay? So you want to try to find the biggest number that you can simplify by, but at the same time, if you don't use the biggest number, you can still continue to simplify the problem. So I could say now 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. Those are the same numbers we would have gotten if we divided by 4. Now I'm going to look at the other diagonal, 12 and 18. Is there any number that goes into both 12 and 18? I see that 2 goes into both of those. I see that 3 goes into both of those. But I also see that 6 goes into both of those. So I'm going to say 6 goes into 12 2 times, and 6 goes into 18 3 times. So now I've checked both of my diagonals. I'm going to check 2 and 3 again and see that that's completely simplified. You do need to check vertically. When I look vertically, I have a 2 and a 5 on the left side. Those can't be simplified. And I have a 1 and a 3 on the right side. Those can't be simplified. You cannot simplify horizontally. You need to remember that. So what I'm looking at now is 2 and 1 in my numerator that I can multiply across. So 2 times 1 is 2. And I'm looking at 5 and 3 in my denominator. So I multiply across. 5 times 3 is 15. I check out my fraction 2/15, and I see that I cannot simplify 2/15 anymore. So the answer to 12 20ths times 4 18ths is 2/15, which you would have gotten from this if you simplified that all the way down. Okay, so let's try one more on your own, and then we'll set you off to work. Okay, I want you to try and solve 10 30ths times 18 20ths. Pause the video and then come back and check your answer. All right, welcome back. Let's see, which ways we can simplify this expression. Like I said, I like to start with my diagonals, and I seem to always start with this diagonal here. If I have 18 and 30, I see that 2 goes into both of those numbers. I see that 3 goes into both of those numbers. And again, I see that 6 goes into both of those numbers. So I am going to divide or simplify 18 and 30 by 6. 6 goes into 18 3 times. 6 goes into 30 5 times. I check my diagonal again. I have 3 and 5, and nothing goes into both 3 and 5. I'm going to check the other way. I have 10 and 20. I know that 10 goes into both of those. 10 goes into 10 one time. 10 goes into 20 2 times. 1 and 2, all set. I look vertically. I have 1 and 5. And 1 and 5 cannot be simplified. And I have 3 and 2. 3 and 2 cannot be simplified. So what I can do now is I can just multiply across. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. And I check to see if there's anything I can simplify anymore. There is not. So my answer is 3/10. All right, now go through the practice problems for this section before you watch the next video.